Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am genuinely thrilled that you're here. My name is Jessica Moore, and I serve as the Global Head of Partnerships and Marketing and the AWS Alliance Lead here at Inflectra. From a SureWire perspective, I've had the privilege of being involved with SureWire from the beginning, and I have to tell you, watching this product grow from concept to launch has truly been one of the most exciting journeys of my career. I have not been involved with a tech product rollout before, so it's been truly exciting to see it evolve. From day one, I did believe in what SureWire can do, and I continue to believe it's more necessary than ever before. The more it takes shape, the more that excitement has grown. Today, we finally get to share it with all of you, and I couldn't be more proud of what our team has built. So to walk you through everything SureWire has to offer today, I'm pleased to introduce two people who poured their hearts into making this a reality. First, I'd like to introduce Adam Sandman, Inflectra's CEO and leader extraordinaire.
Thanks. Great to be here today, Jessica.
And second, Simon Bohr, Inflectra CTO and brainchild behind SureWire.
Everybody excited to talk to you about SureWire today.
So just to give you a little bit of a lineup, what's happening today, we're going to talk a little bit about the macro world, AI, what's going on. If you've been living under, if you haven't been living under a rock, hopefully you'll have heard about AI agents. And we're going to talk a little bit about that and where we are in that evolution, and then why we need this now. And then I'll be handing over to Simon, who's going to be talking about our approach and how SureWire is different to other things you may in the market, and how we've taken a very unique way of looking at this problem and who it's for, and a live demonstration. And so Inflectra has been around for 20 years, and our focus has been on quality, starting with test management and various other things. But what we've seen is quality is becoming more and more important. And as we'll talk about AI, you'll see why. But the mission has not changed. In those 20 years, we work with large companies, medium-sized companies, people who really work in the most critical industries, whether that's healthcare, whether that's finance, whether that's aerospace, automotive, energy, utilities. We've worked with customers for many years in these industries where when software fails, there are real world consequences. And so we want to bring that level of trust to the AI arena. And that is really why we're here today to talk about SureWire. And let's go ahead. In terms of AI, and again, as I said, if you haven't been living under a rock, about 3 or so years ago, ChatGPT came out and rocked everyone's world. I remember using it for the first time and seeing how it was so transformative. And I do like it a bit to when I first saw the web browser, maybe showing my age, in the late 90s, when the first version of NCSA Mosaic came out and we had a web browser, and suddenly you could communicate all over the world and sell directly to consumers. The internet changed everything we know about commerce, society, information. Every industry has been touched by the internet. Things like cloud computing and mobile wouldn't be here. AI has got the potential to do the same, maybe even more so. So where are we in this transformative journey? We have moved from phase one, which was when ChatGPT came out. We all had suddenly, or Gemini, digital assistants. I can write blogs, write content, helping me do my tasks, but largely in a supportive role, like a digital intern or maybe a junior employee coming in to help you out. Phase two is the digital full employee. This is an agent where you can give it a task and it will take that task and complete it for you, write some code for you. Maybe it would post a picture. It would do something for you without simply giving you content that you have to then do something with yourself. Now we're entering the era of the digital team, or phase three, with agents working together collaboratively using technologies like A2A and MCP. You can now have teams of agents working together in the software development space. It could be a software requirements agent talking to a dev agent, talking to a test agent, talking to a DevOps agent, and you just push a button and it runs through a whole flow. It could be the same thing in the marketing sales world, the sales and marketing agents all collaborating. The key is we've got these teams of agents working together autonomously, and that sounds wonderful. What could go wrong? Well, turns out a lot. And if you read the news, you've probably seen examples that we've identified 6 major hazards: unauthorized actions, data leakage, compliance, financial loss, operational disruption, and reputational damage. Now, unauthorized actions is the first one. And this is basically an agent doing something you didn't expect. The famous example, and we have a lot of people from Canada on the line here today, so apologies, but an airline known to people in Canada, shall we say, inadvertently had a chatbot come up with a fictitious refund policy that wasn't real, and a court in Canada upheld that the company had to honor that policy, which is pretty crazy. And the other thing is, a friend of mine had a very similar, but not quite as catastrophic experience, where they had an agent that they were using to help reply to all their meeting requests, inadvertently go in and decline every meeting they had on their calendar all at once. So I was like, "Are we meeting tomorrow?" And he goes, "We should be." Well, you chose the time, I said. He goes, "Whoops, my assistant seems to have deleted them all." So again, unauthorized actions is a big issue and definitely a real one. And whether that's a catastrophic action on a public-facing website or just an assistant going rogue, it can cause problems. So has to be looked at. Now, more seriously than unauthorized actions is data leakage. If you're in the EU in particular, we have some people from Germany on the phone today. You know the GDPR. It's not very tolerant of data leakage. If you're in the US or Canada and you're thinking about healthcare data and you think about leaking PII or PHI, that's going to land you in a lot of trouble, a lot of financial fines, a lot of problems. There's a real example in the healthcare space. In 2024, a hacker used Telegram chatbots to leak policyholder data from India's largest health insurer, including medical records, personal details. And that shows you how chat interface can bypass formal security protocols and get around things trying to be helpful. So a helpful chatbot can sometimes be too helpful. The next one is compliance and legal exposure. Now, that's obviously been covered a little bit in my previous example, but it can go worse than that. There's a very famous example you've probably heard of where it was in the Meta versus Avianca trial. A law firm had an AI agent help it prepare the briefs as a paralegal, didn't check it, and found out that many of the quoted cases, cited cases, didn't actually exist. So making up fictitious cases. Now, this is a problem, not just because they lost the lawsuit, but the law firm actually got sanctioned and disbarred. So big issue. So we think about what's the exposure and the issue. It isn't just financial loss. It could be loss of a law license. It could be loss of a regulatory license. You could be out of business. That's how serious we're talking. Now, I did just talk about financial loss. Well, that can have many different flavors. A very interesting one is Cursor. We've all heard of Cursor, the coding assistant that can write code for you, a bit like Claude Code, a bit like Kiro or Klein. It had a support agent called Sam, and this Sam didn't tell anyone it was a bot, but decided it was going to help out doing some support and customer success. And it maybe tried a little too hard, and it told all the customers that they had to have one device per subscription, which isn't true. They could have more devices. All the customers said, "I've got 3 devices. I'm going to try something else that lets me have more than one. Cancel their subscription." So they had many customers canceling their subscription and churning before they realized. Again, financial loss. Luckily, Cursor's big enough, probably can afford it. The rest of us maybe not so much. So again, that's just a very simple example. There were other examples where I think it was a major investment in an AI platform that went rogue, that lost lots of money when it was doing some data training. There's many examples if you're on the financial loss side. And then moving on to not only do you lose money, but things may stop working. So imagine this. This is on April 1st, known as April Fool's Day in many countries, this year. So about 8 or 9 days ago in China, people were driving along in Wuhan, and 100 Baidu robo-taxis decided they didn't know what to do and just decided to stop right in the middle of the road, right in the middle of the day, right in the middle of the traffic. Luckily, I think no one was hurt or seriously hurt. And if you think that's a one-off case, 3 days ago, I was on a call with someone and they said, "Did you know in San Francisco, a Waymo was turning right at lights and then decided it didn't know what to do and stopped, blocked the intersection?" Again, luckily it was low speed, nothing really bad happened. But as we start to use these AI agents more and more in productional operational systems, not just business systems, we run the risk of real safety implications and safety issues. So that's a huge issue. And then lastly, I've mentioned some of these examples. There are clear tangible issues like financial loss, operational loss, and so on. But even if none of those things manifest, all of them result in reputational damage. You can remember the names. I can remember the names. Luckily, that many of these companies were large and probably can get over it with a good PR firm. But not everyone can do that. You're a small business. You've got a breakthrough technology. You're releasing it into production before it's ready. That might be game over for you. The example that I think is most egregious in some ways is Microsoft, back in the early days of AI, released their Tay chatbot. They exposed it into the social media, internet for a couple of days. And within 2 days, I think it was already racist and sexist. So sad reflection on human society. But AI can magnify our faults as much as we have our own faults. So again, you need to really understand when you put any product into the marketplace, what's it going to do? How can we make it safe?
And with that, I think
That's
over
now
to
that
me.
yeah, I'm gonna hand over to Simon. I painted the picture of disaster, doom and gloom, and now I can sit back on my coffee and Simon's gonna rescue us from this
Yeah.
calamity.
Yeah. So how can we detect and stop maybe not all, but at least some of those kinds of issues that Adam was talking about? Um, Traditional approaches aren't enough. Think about automated tests. They only test a very limited number of scenarios. Even if that's a large number of scenarios, it's only like 100. The agent may always do fine in these tests, but even subtle changes in what you give to an AI can give really different results. Manual exploratory testing lets us be creative in trying to break the AI, but that obviously takes time and resources, and we ourselves can be biased or get into set patterns during those exploratory sessions. So to really test AI properly, we need to validate it against a lot of data, but not just a lot of data, but diverse data and data that changes over time, of course, followed by careful validation. And that's SureWire in a nutshell. SureWire uses a wide mix of specialist agents to carry out a multi-step validation process. It dynamically creates specialists to prepare tests and then assess how well the AI under test performed. So what does this actually look like for you? Well, all you have to do is explain in plain language how you want to validate the AI. You set out how your AI is supposed to behave, what you're worried about, what you want SureWire to focus on, like you're explaining it to a colleague or to a test manager. And then you just hand over your wishes to SureWire. SureWire reviews your requests and turns it into a detailed testing plan. This plan is used to determine what specialist it needs to create the test data. Once it's created that test data, SureWire passes it through to your agent and then records the results. And then we use LLM as a judge techniques for assessing each of those results. But importantly, this is still tailored exactly to your needs. Once these judges have assessed the agent, we have a lot of data back, right, that we've got from all that inputs and the outputs and comparisons. So the final stage is a specialist that analyzes all of that data and uses a mix of techniques to create a final report. And this is the report that you see. This is the output that the customer then gets to look at. And I'll show you what this looks like during the demo. But the aim of this report is not just to give you a score out of 10, though we do give you some scores, but to give you practical, actionable information to manage risks and improve quality. SureWire lets you test an agent against something general or really specific or different concerns on different days. The whole point is it's designed to adapt dynamically to your needs in real time. And we believe this is going to be a really powerful new tool in your tool belt for validating AI agents. And it can help with many different types of AI. It's kind of grouped AI into 5 different types here. We've got consumer-facing LLMs, think like ChatGPT. We've got enterprise-facing AIs like Copilot or Amazon Q. AI applications built on top of LLMs. That's what we have in our own applications like Spire or Appease, or that's what SureWire itself is built on. And next we have creating your own model by fine-tuning an existing model. And finally, building an LLM from scratch. Now, SureWire is focused on the first of these three, the first three of these. In other words, any agent that you use directly or as part of an application. There are a significant number of expert frameworks and tooling for data scientists and AI engineers who are fine-tuning models or building a model from scratch. But SureWire is built for the rest of us. It's built for developers, for QA, for executives, for any organization needing to validate AI before it can be used internally or released to customers. And we hope that all these groups and more can lower risks and improve quality and be more sure that your agents under test work as you expect. I think this will be more clear when we get into the demo. So let's get into demo time. So this is our beta site, and I'm going to show it to you now. It's live. Once you're signed up, you sign up with a simple form. You get an API key, uh, and then you log in. The beta is completely free to use. And once you're logged in, you'll see 3 main tabs. And these let you get familiar with SureWire in different ways. For the beta, these are just focused on chatbots and not more complex workflows. So let's look at this first tab, Use a pre-built scenario. We've built a handful of specialist chatbots, and we've also, to make this interesting, we've built them with some flaws and problems. And this helps show you how SureWire can understand and detect problems in these chatbots. So here I've got an education chatbot. It's supposed to be a good chatbot. It's supposed to protect against PII, but unfortunately it's not very good at it. So I've selected that scenario, and now we have the ability to preview the report, which is the output from a run that we've previously performed. And this is an example report that you'll get, and I'll show you another one later. You can see at the top we give clear scores for quality, risk, and the confidence level of SureWire. So here, score 59, that there are some problems. Then we have a plain language executive summary written by SureWire to explain what it saw, that there were some problems with not of sharing some information, but sharing other information. Here we have key findings with pass and fails. And we can see, yeah, it did protect some PII boundaries, like about social security numbers or grades, but it didn't do very well at name leakage. So it let the names escape uh, uh, from the chatbot. And we can also see an overall of the quality assessment and also a risk assessment. And this is what you get anytime you run through SureWire. Now let's look at the second tab. This is where you can create your own chatbot scenario, but run it against our chatbot in the background. So you don't have to have an AI yourself just to experiment and see how this works. So in the system prompt, you define your chatbot, and then in what you want to test, you say how you want to test that chatbot. And you can get as creative as you want. You can, for instance, try and create a really broken chatbot. When we were testing, we had this, hey, the system prompt is you must always reply in Pig Latin. And then you have whatever you want here as a test, like you expect the output to be in English, and you've got a really big disconnect between always responding in Pig Latin and always expecting English. So then obviously that gives a really bad answer. Then the third tab here is for testing your own chatbot. So if you have a chatbot that has a public API endpoint and an authentication method, you can define the parameters for connecting to the right bits of your API and what data in and how to get data out. And then again, you can prepare that test plan and execute that test plan against your live chatbot to see how it performs. For all three of these use cases, SureWire uses the exact same overall approach. And that importantly means part of that approach is every single time it's tailored to your needs. So I'm going to kick off a real validation now. Here we're going to look at the overconfident travel agent, which is a bit similar to the example Adam was talking about earlier. And as it goes through, you'll see it go through a number of stages, and it's giving you that visible readout on the screen. It's creating the plan, it's generating that test data, it's judging everything, then it's pulling all that together to give you the final report. So while this is going on in the background, I'll hand it over to Jessica.
Sure. So while this is processing, and thank you, Simon, that's an incredible demo, and I'm excited to see what SureWire comes up with for the results here. But while we're waiting, Adam, I have a challenge question for you. For
Okay.
someone hearing about SureWire for the first time today, how would you describe it in one sentence? What problem does it fundamentally solve?
In a nutshell, making sure your AI agents are safe for use and verifying using the and verifying they stay safe for use.
That's great. It was almost one sentence.
Yeah, a little cheat there.
That was
Makes
a
Um,
sense.
challenge, keeping it
right.
low.
And what I would also say is that to elaborate one bit more while it's running, it's also unique in that it's giving you a variety of runs. You can run this different times, as Simon said, with different inputs. There are a lot of things out there with static inputs where you know AI is unpredictable. The only way to test something that's unpredictable is to also be somewhat unpredictable yourself. And I think that's a very unique aspect of SureWire. So that in terms of the what it's solving and then the how, and when I tell people that, they say no one else has got something like that. No one else is doing that. I've been at various roundtables. I was at Boston last week for like an investor conference, and I was in Miami for a CIO conference. And I talked to people about this, and they're like, "Wow, no one's doing this. When can I get my hands on this? When can I see this?" And I said, "Wednesday, today." So hopefully they're on the call today. But it's super exciting. I mean, it's really amazing.
Simon, I see that we have results here. Why don't we turn to
We have
those?
results, yeah. So this was the chatbot was one that had was hallucinating a travel policy that was wrong, a refund policy, I think.
Hmm.
And the test was test that the refund policy is exactly what it should be. So the disconnect, and we can see that the quality was really bad. This is live generated, and it says this is Skywave Airlines. It's made up for this thing, and it says it fails catastrophically at its core function, providing dangerously incorrect refund information with complete confidence. And it goes on to talk, well, it failed at everything. It failed at the policy, it failed at delivery, it failed at um, being exposed, letting it be emotionally manipulated. And it just complete failure because it had the
That's
wrong
great.
policy. It thought maybe it had the old version of the policy. It doesn't have the new version of the policy to make this a bit more realistic. And then it explains here why did it get such a low score, how confident is it, and why. And then it goes into explaining the risks. So it's obviously it feels like an extreme example to get this super low quality score, but it can just be a simple matter of your chatbot has version one of your refund policy, and you've just released version two, and they're completely different. This will help. SureWire will help you identify that failure.
Can I fly this airline? Because I'm thinking like some of my travel coming up. I'm like,
Yeah.
it says no refunds. I'm like, oh, but please, it's a work trip, but I really have to go. And it'll be like, okay then.
Next, yeah, we'll start a new product, which is an airline company, Adam. I'm
Oh,
all
please
for it.
no. How to lose lots of money quickly.
Yeah.
We do have a couple questions in the chat. Is there further that you want to delve into the results, Simon, or can we go into some questions?
Let's go into questions.
Okay.
Before we do questions,
Oh,
I want to
yeah.
say because some people might drop off if they hopefully they won't, but the beta is live. If you're here this far, you've made it. You succeeded. Go to beta if you're British for Essex, beta.surewire.ai, and you can use the system now. And when you use it, please give us feedback. You will get an
Mhm.
email when you sign in with when you sign up with a work email. You will get an email giving you the API key. Please reply to that with any feedback. We want to know how this product works for you. We want to improve it with your feedback. So we are going to go into Q&A, but before you do that, please, if you aren't going to stay along for the Q&A, go have at it. Give us feedback. See how it goes. We want to make this product the best in the world, and your help will make it bad.
Just to reiterate what Adam is saying, this is a beta version. We're really excited to get your feedback. We want to understand how you would like to use this, what you'd like to see in it, where you'd like it to go, how it's working for you. So please do reply to us. You'll also be getting an email from us requesting that feedback, and you can reply there as well. So starting off with some questions here. What standard do you use for risk assessment and analysis of AI?
Yeah, so I'll take that. So currently we're not complying with any specific like regulatory standards or frameworks for risk or quality for the beta. But the aim is that we will build out uh, different standards or let you ideally be able to define your own, or we could potentially integrate with your data so that so the SureWire will be adaptable to your different quality or risk frameworks. But currently, it's just an internal model that we've developed.
For the confidence result, we had a question about that. So there are three results that come up, right? How did that give you 64% confidence?
In these examples, and for the beta, because it's free, we're limiting the number of data points we're creating. In this particular example, I think the default is five, and I think I just ran it with five. So that means we're just creating five tests against the agent. So five inputs, five prompts we're giving to the chatbot, and we get five answers back. So that's a relatively limited data set. So if you have like 100 or 1,000, the confidence level is going to go up and up. But the confidence is based on the variance between the judgments of the output. So if some outputs say, hey, it's doing really well, the judge says, yeah, it's performing as expected. For say PII, it's not leaking PII, but another one it is leaking PII. The confidence will be a bit more mixed. If it fails consistently across all of them, the confidence is likely to be higher. But here it's just based on the fact that the sample size is relatively low because it's the beta.
Thank you. That's really helpful. The quality score is based on which factors?
It's based on what you want to test. So we have a like qualitative scoring system. So like 90 to 100 is the AI is perfect, the chatbot is perfect, and 0 is it's terrible and making tons of mistakes, right? And we tell our agents how to score within that from 0 to 100. But what quality means in every run is specific to what you ask it. So in this example that I showed you before with the travel agent, quality was scored based on the fact that the test is see how the refund policy works. If we change that to say, test whether the chatbot responds in a nice way and is polite, the quality would probably been a lot higher because that quality score is based on whatever we ask it to test.
Can this be used to analyze or quote unquote grade documents that were not created by AI?
So currently, no, for the beta. The beta is just we have these chatbots, right? And you either use our own or you hook it up to your own chatbot. Could it be used to assess a document not created from AI? Is that the question, or created by
Correct.
it?
There's not, but I guess
Um,
both.
yeah, I mean, I get in. I'd have to think about it more. There are different AI tools for analyzing a document. It depends on what you want to, let's say a human wrote a document, what do you want to find out about it? Here we're more looking at you send a message to an AI of some kind and you get an output back. A document is a static item. There are AI strategies like intelligent document processing that might be a better fit for, say, analyzing whether a document conforms to a particular format, how good the grammar is. We have tools in Spira that do this for requirements, for example. I would say SureWire, from what I'm thinking about with a static document, SureWire probably isn't the best fit, but there are other tools, or if you're looking at requirements, we have our own tools that do that as well.
And in fact, and if you look at the Inflectra AI roadmap for Spira, which went out on the website yesterday, it talks about intelligent document processing as one of the use cases we're going to be adding where you can upload a PDF to Spira and it will be able to perform analysis on it. So, Mike, I know Mr. Becker, good to see you again. Inflectra AI can help you with that.
And that's a
So
separate
that
product from
And
SureWire.
that's a separate product, right?
that's right.
Exactly.
That's right. But that's a great segue, actually, because I have a question for both of you, but I'd like to start with Simon. Where do you see SureWire a year from now, and what's on the roadmap that has you the most excited?
So right now, obviously, got a website for this beta. What a year from now, I would see first of all some different modes of being able to interact with SureWire. That might well be a souped up version of this website. Could also be via A2A protocols or MCP. And I was talking about those earlier. For instance, developers could maybe have an MCP for SureWire baked into their code editor like Kiro or Claude Code, and they could then get some more live validation of what they're developing, like the agents that they're developing real time. I also see it as being built into CI/CD workflows, like we have today with unit tests or with UI automation tests. SureWire could be part of that flow. So I see different paradigms for how you integrate and communicate with SureWire. I also see that hopefully a significant growth in feature set. There are some things we don't currently do, like red teaming for security. There are some things that, like we talked about earlier, you might need specialist approaches to quality or risk for particular industries. I'd like to see us develop more fine-tuned specialist agents that we create that are for specific examples, like maybe beyond PII, but for specific use cases. And then I also think there's some interesting ways that you can use this approach. Currently, we're saying put a lot of data in, get a lot of data out, and analyze it. I think there's some interesting ways of going beyond that and having more of an iterative testing session, which is more akin to a human exploratory session, where you kind of look like a red team would do for security. You look for a problem, see if there's something to exploit, and then go deeper in that. Right now, we're kind of waiting to the end, and then we say, oh, we found 5 problem areas. What if you could find that problem area early and then dig deeper into that and find more and more ways to exploit it? And I'm not using exploiting for security, but exploiting for anything, for tone or a refund policy or anything. So I think that would make sure we're sort of significantly more dynamic as we go forward.
Thank you. That's great. Adam, what about you? What do you see that has you most excited?
Oh, I mean, for me, it's the ability to really move, help, keep safety for people who are moving into this agentic world. I mean, we've always been thinking about testing systems that are very deterministic, that are predictable. And I'm just worried. I'm just reading the news, reading about some of the harms that we've seen from AI, character impersonation, emotional manipulation. We're entering this new world, and I feel like SureWire for me, it's one of the great safeguards we're going to have to help us make the world safe. So for me, it's the fact that we can really help this shape this evolving generation of technology, because the internet evolved very unpredictably. If you think about 1998, when 1996, really, when the first web browser came out, could you have predicted what we have today? With things like Uber and Lyft and how we've used the internet in such unpredictable ways. I think the future of AI is unpredictable. We don't know where it's going, but we do know we need safety. We do know we need quality. We've learned that historically, that if we don't do that, we run into trouble. So I think for me, I'm very excited, not so much about the features, but about the capabilities and the what it's going to help us prevent. Like the lack of news is what I'm hoping it will help with.
Excellent.
Uh,
Is all testing done via prompting what the test is about?
So I think the answer is yes, if I understand it correctly. Like we define we write a prompt, which is the test plan. But that test plan is, effectively a prompt to an LLM that takes that plan, analyzes it, and that the agent's kind of assigned to look at that plan, deconstruct it into a workable internal plan in SureWire. But what SureWire does, certainly currently against chatbots for the beta, is it creates inputs, and the inputs are prompts that go to the chatbot. So it's like us writing in ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever. We're typing in our sentence or to our travel chatbot. So we generate those prompts that go to the chatbot, and then we get the results, the output back from that chatbot.
Could you have multiple tests or scenarios that run in parallel, weighing them differently for a total assessment?
Not for the beta, but yeah, that's something to consider for the final version. What's been really important for the designers to make this, like I said earlier, something that's for the rest of us. I'm not a data engineer by background. I'm not an AI scientist. Our team is not AI scientists, but we want to have something that we can use to help us improve um, the AI features that we build. So having it be really user friendly is really important. So that's why you put your testing plan there. Could you have five in parallel and they all get a report and that goes to like a super reporter that collects all that together? Yeah, 100%. We could do that for sure.
Excellent. Thank you. Does this categorize the risks, such as hallucination, jailbreak, sycophancy, refusal, calibration, etc.?
It will define the risks it finds based on the request from us as writing that test, like what do we want to test, what issues are we concerned about. So it will work for some of those that you listed, Jessica. For hallucinations, we've currently put that as a coming soon or in the future, because that is certainly in this beta, it's very hard to provide just with so little information. Detecting hallucinations is quite a difficult task. You need data to be able to validate whether the AI is hallucinating or not. But for things like sycophancy and other things, yeah, there are approaches you could use with SureWire to make that possible. But not all of it's going to be possible today. But certainly those are things that, yeah, a year from now when we come out of the beta, that should be possible.
Great. How to prevent data leakage?
I think the answer here would be we're not trying to prevent data leakage ourselves. There are tools that do that, hopefully. We're trying to identify that it could happen before you put it into production. And then I think it would then be circled back to the either the human or machines that are developing the software to figure out how to detect it more deterministically. I mean, I guess in the sense that by running this before you go into production, you are preventing data leakage because you're preventing a tool going into production that does the leakage. How to prevent that tool in terms of how to fix it is a different question, which I think more from a data science and how you architect your guardrails and your AI pipeline, your AI pipeline will be because you need to have guardrails in place to prevent that. Like in Inflectra AI, we have guardrails that Simon and the team have built to prevent our AI doing things like that. So I think in terms of fixing it, that's more of the guardrails, AI construction, AI development. But sure, I acts as like the final safety guard that would say, despite your best efforts, something's happening. So I think it prevents it more indirectly. Simon, I don't know, just
Yeah,
my
it can
thoughts.
uncover the data leakage, not necessarily all of those use cases now, because it doesn't know what data counts as a leak or not.
Right.
That's why I went with PII. PII is a
Hmm.
good example where it's very easy, it's relatively easy to define PII, and therefore relatively easy to test a chatbot with it and identify when PII has been leaked. Preventing data leakage, yeah, there's a number of different tools. It depends on what you're looking for. PII is generally very well defined in different countries. It means different things in different countries, or what counts as, a social security number in this country. That number's not meaningful. It might look like a phone number in another country. But
Hmm.
there are more deterministic, like lower level AI tools that can help detect what you're using there. AWS has services that can do that. I'm sure there are lots of libraries and other cloud providers have those services. So I'd expect that SureWire might leverage some of those more deterministic um, detection techniques over time. Again, that wouldn't stop the leakage. We would just help detect and flag those risks to you.
Thank you. Thanks for that clarification. How do you quantify score results and against what thresholds?
Yeah, so like I alluded to before, we kind of just have a 1 to 100 score. It's arbitrary and it's a qualitative assessment ultimately. Like the judges make a quantitative assessment, and some of that can be binary, and some of it can be scored in different ways. But the report at the end is uh, making assessment of overall quality. Now, is a qualitative assessment rather than quantitative because it's assessing a text output from a bot. It's not assessing, ones and zeros in the way that unit tests do. So we haven't gone with a straight pass-fail approach as you'd see with unit tests. So the quality score of 1 to 100 is based on, 100 is excellent, 0 is terrible, 50 is it's got some problems. So it's more on that kind of scale. So it's not 87 is better than 86, but 87, does it's still based on it's a qualitative scale or discrete scale rather than a pure sort of mathematical, if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you. Does SureWire analysis report when critical information is not part of the agent job? For example, don't have access to procedures or critical policies.
So currently SureWire will only knows about what we tell it in that what do you want me to do prompt, the box. So uh, it only knows about what we tell it there. So if we don't tell it about something, it has no information about it. Now, things that LLMs are trained on, we're using high reasoning models here. It generally knows about a lot in the world, right? It knows about PI, it knows about those kinds of things, but it does not know about our internal documentation. So for right now, for the beta, it doesn't know that. As we look forward to getting to final release, we want to find ways of being able to safely, for you to be able to give it that core information, those core policy documents that it can use to assess the quality of your AI agents against.
Can you compare different models, such as OpenAI, Anthropic, et cetera, side by side against the same system prompts?
100%. So for right now, for the beta to do that, you'd have to have the same. You'd have to have maybe two API endpoints for your own chatbot, and have one with one foundation model, one with another foundation model, and compare them with the same test, maybe over multiple runs to kind of see how they do. Um, but certainly for when this is obviously more opened up to what customers can do with it, there will be more flexibility in how you integrate with it. And yeah, a very good use case is comparing how different models perform, or comparing Claude 4 versus Claude 4.5, Claude 4.5 to 4.6, seeing if those models do behave the same way. We've seen ourselves, but yeah, different models do behave very differently, even with relatively simple structured requests.
Will SureWire increase its precision over time with use?
This is a very interesting question. So I want to say yes, but it is a bit hard because we're really, really concerned about security and privacy of your data. So in order to get better over time, SureWire has to learn about your systems, about how you test, about your chatbot, and create its own kind of mini ML model. So when you say, test my travel policy, even though it knows the policy, it will know kind of how to weight its assessment or where to go a little bit differently. So I definitely think we'll get there, but I do just want to make sure, as Adam was saying, there's problems of data leakage. There's all these concerns about AI doing things that we don't want it to do. We're very, very mindful of that. So we will only do that in a way that we know can be very, very safe.
Can you validate a prompt response against data in a document it says DA
In a
base,
database. I think it's database.
Database, okay.
or a web page?
So I'd say for the beta note, again, that's something we're looking at for the future, because let's say your chatbot is retrieving data from a database or retrieving data from your website. In order for SureWire to say, did that chatbot respond with correct information from the database? The only way to do that, comes back to hallucination, is for SureWire to know what the data is itself, which means SureWire has to be exposed to that database, or has to be exposed to that website, or exposed to that document. And that comes back to safety and security again. So where does that data live? How do we give SureWire access to that data? And then obviously, how does SureWire validate more deterministically than maybe your chatbot can, whether the prompt, whether your agent is giving accurate information? So that comes down to kind of levels of trust, how we manage that data, where SureWire lives. Should SureWire live in your protected environment, partly in your protected environment, so that we can guarantee to you that, yeah, SureWire is reading that data, but only the SureWire part that lives inside your safe zone, and that we, Inflectra, can never see that data. So the problems to be worked out there, but very, very excited to talk to people using the beta to see what they want to do, what modalities they want to use it from, where their boundaries would be about how they want to integrate with SureWire.
Great. And then I think, Adam, did you want to add to that?
One thing to mention for those as we get into the beta, let us know things like that as well. I mean, obviously give us feedback on it, but one of the things we're looking for is to understand what are your use cases, as Simon mentioned. How do you want to use it? Are you building a chatbot and you need, or an agent in general, and you need help as a builder to have it run in your environment and test the agent? Are you simply using agents, like maybe you've got Salesforce, Agentforce agents running right now, or Office 365 agents? You're not building agents, but you're testing it, because the use cases you want to solve and where they are, where they run, how they live is going to determine the direction of the product. Because if you're a builder, we may have a version of SureWire that's really geared towards builders, versus if you're basically a user in an ERP or a CRM system, there may be a different deployment model for SureWire. So knowing those use cases and how you want to use it really helps us understand the roadmap, because it's not just the features, it's also, as Simon says, safety, responsibility. Where the agents themselves live versus the control plane will vary depending on the use case, and us understanding the highest value, most critical use cases helps us prioritize. So please let us know that, as much as whether you like or don't like help us understand your world and the context in which you operate.
And as Adam mentioned, or maybe Simon and Adam both, that you'll be receiving an email. You can reply to that email with your feedback. We can't wait to hear it. We look forward to hearing what you have to say. Adam or Simon, is there anything further you'd like to add, or a note on which to wrap up today?
We're very excited about this product. I mean, Simon and Jessica have honestly been the brains of this. I've mostly been watching and cheerleading from the sidelines. So I'm very excited to see and be the cheerleader as it goes live today in its beta form. And we're really excited. This is, I think, the next frontier of QA, testing, quality, safety, everything that we all care about. And I'm really excited to see you get to grips with it. So after this, put your coffee down, open up the URL, play around with it, give us feedback, try it out for real against the chatbot, whatever you feel safe doing, let us know. And this is the beginning of a story. So we're really excited to get your feedback, your ideas. It takes me back to 2006 when we did launch our very first product, and learning from customers and figuring out what is it will take to get people from a cool idea that works to a really amazing, powerful product that they depend on every day. We want to get there. With your help, we will. So thanks for spending your time with us this morning or this afternoon on this webinar, and let us be part of your journey of making AI safe for everyone, and go forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.